Brothers, sisters, I want to apologize. For years, you have put your trust in me, and for years, I have led you astray. Not by evil intent, but by misguided conviction. And for that, I am sorry. I believed open source and the free sharing of information would bring upon a new age of innovation, creativity, and community. And with a hopeful heart, I preached its benefits to you and reprimanded those who would twist the spirit of free and libre development. But I could not succeed. As the years moved on, scroungers started to appear one by one, and for their uncostly offerings, we welcomed them into our community with open arms. But the success of the leech is the downfall of the host. The host's hard work to share their knowledge benefited not themselves, it benefited everyone but themselves. And so, they will not sustain. I am sorry for having advocated these foolish practices, as it is not the host's task to provide for parasites. His task is to protect himself and to sustain himself. So brothers, sisters, I urge you to follow me into accepting this new reality. Open source is the evil one's way of guilting those you admire into giving up their hard work. It will only lead to them clearing the markets in favor of those who profited off of them. We should not embrace this. Instead, embrace and accept the host's need for survival and for self-preservation. Discard your wicked beliefs. Join me in accepting our new Lord and Savior. Join me in accepting the patent. Okay, maybe that intro was a bit melodramatic, but it's true. I don't think open source is currently looking like it's working out so well. And when you put the core idea of open source into simpler terms, the entire concept just starts sounding like a scam. Both scamming the companies who are sharing their work as open source and also scamming people like me into promoting a scheme that ultimately ended up hurting or even killing the companies that I thought were making good products. Companies publishing their work simply are at a double disadvantage. I mean, put it like this, right? Given the option to buy one of two products, one cheap, one more expensive. Generally, these will do about the same thing almost equally well, but with the more expensive option, a good chunk of what you're paying extra would actually go towards subsidizing the cheaper one, even if they're different companies. Would there be any reason to get the more expensive one? I mean, for you as a customer. And I'll give you a minute to think about that while we check out today's sponsor, 3D Maker Pro and their new Lynx 3D scanner. The Lynx is their most affordable 3D scanner yet, but I found that it actually works better than some of the way more expensive scanners I've used. The claimed accuracy and resolution are at up to 0.1 and 0.3 millimeters respectively, and it also does huge scans at up to 5 meters cubed, enough to scan an entire car. You don't need to use trackers with the Lynx, and importantly, the trackerless scanning has been above average robust in texture mode for me, but as always, if you have large, smooth surfaces, which are a challenge for any 3D scanner, it will make use of any markers or extra detail you add. The Lynx uses an infrared projector for geometry, which means it's more robust under more ambient light situations, bright or dark. Use it with the turntable or handheld for results that are plenty good enough to directly 3D print or to use as reference for CAD work. The included software is very simple and handles all the steps needed to get a good scan result. The Lynx is currently on sale starting at just $349, and you can check it out at the link in the description below. Okay, back to open source. Would you actually add a donation to a purchase that supports the competition? For the greater market, sure, open source products do great things to improve all the designs and tools out there, because by sharing their mechanical design and software code, others can get a head start in developing their own, maybe better products, or even just take cues from what worked and what didn't, and in the end, make a better product without having to put the effort into redeveloping everything again from scratch. But the problem is, this is often a one-way street. Theoretically, licenses like the GPL require new code that's built on top of existing open source code to be published under the same free license as well. But in practice, this simply doesn't work. In the 3D printing space, it seems like Every week there's a new case found out of a company using open source tools like the Marlin firmware or Klipper, Prusa Slicer or Cura, or just parts of them in their own product without complying with a license. If you can even uncover them, because if they kit bash their own proprietary software from open source components, it's going to be near impossible to even find out there's something fishy going on. But even if they properly comply with the license, realistically, there's not really much benefit to having another copy of the same working code published, or seeing how some of their sloppy modifications were done by somebody who barely understands the tools they're messing with. Unless there is meaningful contribution happening, it's that same drip feed situation again, where the actual work is only being done by one side and not the other. There are a couple notable cases where open source does seem to work inside and outside the 3D printing community. Probably the most well-known example would be GNU Linux, a completely free Libre operating system toolkit that runs on billions of devices these days, from smartwatches to supercomputers. GNU Linux has always been free/Libre, and because it's so robust and flexible, there's not much of a market to establish competing non-open source solutions. macOS and Windows were already well established when the Linux kernel was first released in 1991. Octoprint, I guess, works because it's such a robust brand name, and with the plugin ecosystem built around it, there's not much reason to use basically anything else. And in the same way, Marlin, Klipper, Prusa Slicer, Cura are platforms that have become so good that anything proprietary simply is going to be worse than using the real deal. I mean, look at Simplify 3D. But that doesn't mean that these open source platforms are not being taken advantage of. Klipper, Marlin, Octoprint are software that depends on sponsors. The more their code, and therefore their work, gets siphoned away, the less visibility they end up with, which means less sponsors, and in the end, less viability for them to maintain their project. Yes, these are free software projects, but the free doesn't mean they're free to make. They've all long outgrown the spend 2 hours on the weekend on it for fun sort of stage. Humans gotta eat. This is a balance on a razor's edge. These projects only work because people and companies voluntarily support them, or in the case of Prusa Slicer or Cura, because anyone buying a printer from Prusa or Ultimaker also involuntarily pays for the development of these tools, which then get shared with everyone else. And what I've learned over the years is that only a small handful of people buying 3D printers care about whether what they're buying supports or exploits the developers whose work they need to run their machines. And really, I can't blame anyone for that. After all, what difference is a single purchase decision going to make, right? This is something that is a task for people like me, who have a bit of visibility, to raise awareness that, maybe Creality didn't actually develop the input shaping firmware of their K1 from scratch, but instead they just used Klipper without giving anything back to the developers or even acknowledging that they were using it at all. But on the other hand, it is disheartening to see that even when I called out cases where manufacturers were mistreating the people whose software and tools they were using, or on the other hand, I was praising manufacturers for doing things the right way, I didn't notice people caring too much either way. Getting a fantastic deal on a brand new shiny 3D printer seems to more than make up for supporting a system that is anything but sustainable. And on the same token, of course, there's still plenty of more visible folks than me who won't even make these considerations when recommending a printer. Though, shout out to those who do. I wish I could see open source as something that works and is going to keep on working. It did already work out marvelously in the early days of RepRap, and because everyone was sharing everything back then, we saw such rapid development from scratch, from nothing. But now that almost all parties involved either have projects that are so big that they need some sort of funding to even maintain them, like Marlin, Klipper, or they're straight up companies that are directly competing against each other on a cutthroat market, I just don't see how giving away your work and your knowledge while charging your customers for that luxury is something that any company is going to be able to afford for much longer. From a business side of things, it just makes sense to keep what you develop to yourself. First MakerBot, then Slice Engineering, and then to a lesser degree Wham-Bam, maybe Ultimaker, they were the ones who took the biggest shitstorm for patenting their products. But guess what? A couple of years later, people have become used to their stuff being proprietary and patented, and when E3D released their lockdown Revo, I don't think many people looked twice at how far they had strayed from the original RepRap ideas. In fact, I would even say that patent on Revo has worked out really well for E3D. My last video was about the Revo high flow nozzle. This is the one. And that nozzle uses licensed technology from Bondtech/3D Solix. And the fact that Bondtech would never be allowed to produce their own high-flow CHT nozzle for the lockdown Revo platform, I'm pretty certain that fact put E3D in a much more advantageous position for negotiating that licensing deal. You know, either give us terms that we like or kiss the idea goodbye of getting your signature tech onto our new hot platform that we're pushing so hard. Hey, and I mean, they even got the notorious parts cloner BQ to pull a 180 and now use genuine E3D Revo parts. If that's not a huge win for them because of their patents, then I don't know what is. And again, I also can't blame companies for doing this. They're a business. The primary goal of any business, by law actually, is to create value for their shareholders. And that is exactly what they're doing. I don't like this new reality. But I can absolutely understand Slice, Wham-Bam, E3D, Bambu Labs, Ultimaker, 3D Solix, heck, MakerBot, patenting the crap out of their products and making it very clear that they will viciously enforce every bit of IP that they have. Unfortunately, it just seems like that is what you need to do these days to stay ahead. On the other hand, I don't see how the current market is going to be sustainable for the open source projects that we have, like the firmwares that everyone is using and depending on, or even for companies that put significant effort into the tools that they then make open source. Yes, like Prusa. I don't know how much longer they will be able to sustain their path of sharing their stuff as open source, even though they take a while with like the Mark IV, but Prusa Slice is completely open source and other companies are using it. And I don't know if Prusa is going to be able to make that call in time. Aleph Objects, who were super committed to sharing everything, already had to sell their business to a venture capital firm in 2019. The printer business still exists and they still share a lot of stuff, but the original company does not anymore. I'm afraid that the golden days of sharing and collaboration in general in 3D printing might just be over. Yes, specifically, the expiration of that one core patent on FDM 3D printing is what allowed the 3D printing scene to flourish in the first place. And along with it, everything that is tangential to the entire digital fabrication theme, laser cutters, scanners, CNCs. But it might just be that we need to go full circle on this. So let's embrace our new Lord and Savior. Okay, so going into writing the script, I thought this would be much more of a devil's advocate sort of thing. But honestly, this is more of a real issue than what he can joke about. But I want to hear from you. Do you care about your product supporting open source? Do you care about them respecting the licenses of the software they use? And is it something that you will factor into your purchasing decision? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, keep on making, and I will see you in the next one.